Hello and welcome to all our viewers from around the world. I'm Kristen Schwartz, licensed midwife and MC here at Gold Learning. And I'm here today with a special guest, Jeanette Mesite Frem. Hello, Jeanette.
Hello.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you back here at Gold. You just had a fabulous keynote presentation for our Gold Lactation Online Conference, and then we snatched you up again right away for our next event that we have here, our add-on package for the Gold Neonatal Online Conference. And the add-on package you are presenting in is titled Pumping. Actually, this is your presentation here, Pumping for Hospitalized Babies, 12 Keys to Supporting Families. And this presentation is part of the Advancing Human Milk and Breastfeeding Practices in the NICU. So thank you so much for coming back here, Jeanette. I know we just spoke recently, but for those viewers who are not that familiar with you yet, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where, first of all, in the world you are.
So I am in central Massachusetts, near Worcester, Massachusetts, on the East Coast. And I am an IBCLC in private practice. And I have an office here. I used to do home visits, and I used to be a birth doula, and I'm also a childbirth educator and have been for 20 years. And I do that as well, prenatal breastfeeding classes as well as birth classes.
Wonderful. That's absolutely fabulous. Thank you for sharing that with us here. And, one of your specialties or, one of many topics you talk about is pumping, right? And you talked about it here with Gold Lactation earlier, just a few days ago. This new presentation here is also about pumping. And, I feel like as lactation professionals, yeah, we know a lot about it, but it always is interesting to me how many families out there don't know about that as much. Obviously, they've heard about pumping, but often, they're like, oh, this is complicated, this is messy, I don't have time for this, and there's so much good work though to be done, right, as a professional out there in the world. So it is an important topic, and I'm so glad we're bringing it up here again at the conference. So thank you for coming in here for us as well. So talking about your presentation here, Pumping for Hospitalized Babies, 12 Keys to Supporting Families. And we're talking specifically with little ones in the NICU. And this is a very vulnerable population, much different than, full-term babies who are ready to go home with their families. So that presents an additional challenge. So tell me a little bit while working with friends, families in the NICU, what you have learned, how to adjust your practice and your teaching when you are working with these families.
So when I am working with families, typically would be virtual since I don't work in the hospital. It's fascinating to me how when parents are pumping, they're often upset because they're not getting as much milk, right? And at first they're
Mhm.
trying to get that early milk, that colostrum, and they're having a hard time because pumping may not be comfortable, or maybe it feels fine, but they're not getting as much result from that. And they've heard that this is good for their babies and they want to get more to their babies, but the hospital only has certain tools available. So when I can, I encourage those parents to either order different parts or to pick them up from my office or my house, depending on where they are. And when we use those, they see a market increase in how much milk they get out right in that one session that we're doing, even virtually. So my hope is that we can get more of those usually smaller flanges into hospitals to be used with the pumps that are in the hospitals, and having that conversation with the pump manufacturers as well. I think the more that hospital-based providers see the results of finding a flange, and this is counter to what most people, what we've all been hearing for many years since the dawn of pumps. What many of us in private practice are finding is that the flange that fits the best is the one that's just fitting the nipple itself, and the nipple glides along. And I just really been finding that that's revolutionizing what's happening with pumping, and parents are so excited that they can rush more of that early milk and more of that mature milk down to the NICU where their babies are and get their babies fed.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so right. It is very, very frustrating for these families if they see that very little. I mean, obviously, colostrum or the early milk, how you call it, I like that expression, is of course, yeah, there isn't much, but but the expectations are often very high from these families because that's the only thing in this moment, particular moment, they can do for their baby. They feel like, okay, this is something I can contribute that brings me closer to my baby. And then the frustration sets in when it's not going right and not going well. And then on top of that, all that's going on with the infant, of course, with the neonate there in the NICU, right? So when families come to you, they're probably very desperate already, right? That they want to do something and it's not working, and they're really looking for solutions.
Right. I think the majority of people that I'm seeing who have their babies in the NICU or special care, or maybe they were readmitted and they're in the pediatric ward, is they've already known me somehow,
Mhm.
and sometimes they've just taken prenatal classes with me, maybe just even just my prenatal breastfeeding class, where I've already talked about pumping and early milk and how important these different flange sizes are, and so they're realizing, oh gosh, I had my baby early, and now my baby's in the NICU. I can't breastfeed my baby like I want to. Hand expression, I'm trying. We're trying to figure out how to do it, but they're having me pump. It doesn't feel right. And I remember in class you said something about the smaller flanges. So what size do I get? And sometimes it's just a matter of, let's just, can you send me a picture of your nipple with a ruler under it? One family, I was like, well, okay, you don't have access to a ruler handy. So do you happen to know the ring size that you're wearing or your partner's wearing? And one person did. And so she took a picture of the ring over her nipple. And then I just sort of estimated, looked up what the
Mhm.
ring size was, how many millimeters that was. And I kind of estimated and said, all right, we'll have your partner pick up 3 different sizes from me, and then we'll do a virtual session later. And man, if those were available in the hospital for those people to try right there, right?
Mhm.
Can you imagine the hospital lactation consultants or the NICU nurse saying, oh, we have other flange sizes. Let's try it. Looks like you have a smaller nipple than this flange is. It would
Yeah.
be very, very valuable.
It would be. And your last session here, that was a real eye opener with the flanges, I have to say, with the different sizes there as well. And how, may I say, how creative that idea with the ring? That's fantastic. I'm sure
I
we
didn't come up
all,
with that myself. Someone else told me that. But yeah, we're all sharing ideas, and there's
yes,
more and more things that we all come up with and share with each other.
absolutely share with each other and learn from each other. That's what makes it so amazing, right? That's something definitely I know many of us will use now with the ring, because you're right, not always we're in a situation or in a place where you have a ruler, and that's a wonderful thing to do. And yeah, you're right, these flange sizes in the hospital, they're still very, very limited, right?
Yes.
And often it's seen as, okay, pumping doesn't work, well, you tried, you tried, and okay, moving on into formula or donor milk, which donor milk is wonderful, of course, where it's available, right? But I can only imagine how much more success we would have if we would just at least try these different flanges and come up with that. So have you seen a lot of, I know you said you're not working directly in the hospital, but have you seen any feedback from clients who have changed flanges and maybe brought that discussion up in the hospital to try to make change there? Has anything developed, or maybe you have something good to report too, that you said somebody introduced it and now the whole department, the whole NICU is utilizing it.
I haven't quite gotten there yet. It's on the
Mhm.
parent side. I definitely have heard there's two sides. There are two different streams of what I'm hearing. One is parents will say, well, I brought in my own pump and they told me I had to use the hospital one. And so they're then which is fine. But on the other hand, maybe the pump that they have actually does work better because the motor's different, or maybe
Mhm.
the one in the hospital does work better. Let's try them both. There's no research yet on the personal pumps yet to determine whether they really are less powerful. I think when we're talking about the different flanges used with them, let's put it that way. There's also the piece where the parents are saying, well, I had these other small flanges, or I asked for smaller flanges, and the lactation consultant made fun of me and
Mhm.
said, oh, that's
Mhm.
ridiculous. That's ridiculous. It's such a fad. Oh, you saw that on Dr. Google. And they get made fun of
Mhm.
sometimes. But then other times there are people going, oh, you've heard about those smaller ones? Do you have those too? I've been hearing about this. This is fascinating. Right. And I know I teach a workshop about these, and I've had many, many hospital based IBCLCs in my workshops, as well as there's another workshop I do for perinatal professionals. I've had neonatologists and pediatricians in there and nurses, and they're like, this is fascinating. I am going to work on figuring out a way to get these smaller flanges into the hospital. And some of them have been able to do it, and they are absolutely seeing results and they're
Mhm,
thrilled and
mhm,
they're excited and it's new and different, but they're trying it. And I've heard from multiple hospital-based providers who have had small flange experience, when appropriate, of course, which is, I think, 95% of the time. Um, but that they'll say, well, okay, so I'm one of 6 IBCLCs on the hospital team, and I'm really thrilled that I'm, I figured out a way, worked with my manager. We're bringing in these flanges. We're figuring out a way to sanitize them. Everybody's okay with it. But no one else on my IBCLC team is willing to discuss this, and they're really frustrated too. So I think
mhm.
we've got an uphill climb, not only out in the community amongst all sorts of lactation providers, but in hospitals to even get IBCLCs in hospitals to not think
Mhm,
outside the box and say, well, there's this new way, maybe I should look into it. Right.
mhm. Or at least
And
try it. Yeah,
yeah,
right?
just
At
try
least
it.
just try it. There's nothing to lose,
That's
right?
all I'm asking is
It's
try it.
try it, yes, and take one of your workshops because yes, we need to, you're educating the parents, but also you are educating care providers like us here at Gold and your private workshops. So the more IBCLCs, neonatal nurses, anybody, neonatologists, anybody's working in the field there knows about it and just tries around with it and experiments a little bit with it, and is open to learn, that would be a lot would be one, right?
Absolutely.
Well, wonderful. So can you let us know where we can find you if we would be interested in one of your workshops?
Sure. Just babiesincommon.com.
Okay.
And I have a special page for gold, babiesincommon.com/gold. And all the information is there. And it's really the one other thing I just felt like I wanted to add right
Yeah.
now is I've had people ask me in the last few days even, well, right, but that's for actual mature milk, but we're trying to get colostrum out, and that's like really thick and sticky. So would that really still work with the smaller flange? And the way I keep thinking about it is if if much more fluid, copious milk comes out faster with a smaller flange, and hand expression is the gold standard for getting that early milk, that thicker colostrum out, it actually makes sense that a smaller flange would actually get more colostrum out too,
Yeah,
right? And again,
absolutely.
just try it
Just try
for
it.
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jeanette, it was such a pleasure having you here today and twice at
I'm
Gold.
honored.
Thank you so
Yes.
much for coming in and presenting here. And for our viewers, this presentation, Pumping for Hospitalized Babies, 12 Keys to Supporting Families, is going to be available May 31st, and it's part of the Advancing Human Milk and Breastfeeding Practices in the NICU. So I hope you will check it out and find it very useful and informative, just like we are here at Gold. Thank you so much again, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.